Continuing on with the Darth Maul stories, we have Maul Lockdown by Joe Schreiber. This is a legend story set before The Phantom Menace, but as I mentioned in the last Darth Maul video, this one comes before Shadowhunter. Even though all the Legends novels have a timeline that says it comes after, the story doesn't really work at all if you read them in that order. In this story, Sidious sends Maul on a mission to infiltrate a prison ship and get a bomb from a mysterious weapons merchant who operates out of the prison and deliver it to the mysterious Bandagora syndicate. To work towards finding the merchant, Maul must deal with the culture within the prison and partake in its underground fighting ring that's run by the warden and their brother. The prison is designed so it can reconfigure itself by moving around rooms and hallways to set up different conditions for the various fights being hosted there. These fights are then broadcast across the galaxy in a sorta pay-per-view-like way where viewers can go and bet on the fighters, and this is the way that the prison ends up making most of its money. Through these fights, Maul gains plenty of notoriety throughout the galaxy, and it gets the attention of the Banking Clan, the Hutts, and lots of other criminal gangs which all convene later on. The story stays in line with Schreiber's other Star Wars novels like Death Troopers and Red Harvest by sometimes dipping into the horror side of things at certain points, and also with the graphic levels of violence. The violence in all the fights is very detailed, and it really makes you feel every hit and injury that the characters receive, and it also helps give a different spin to the story. Since the story takes place in a prison, a lot of the fights are more primal than what we're used to seeing. As opposed to your standard blaster or lightsaber combat, this story involves mostly just bare-knuckle brawling and usage of whatever weapons you could get on hand or make on hand in the prison. The story also has your standard tropes that you can expect from a story that takes place in prison. You have your gangs that run certain areas, an inmate that has been there longer than anyone can remember, the prisoner with a sympathetic backstory that got them imprisoned, the one guy that knows his way around the entire area and how things work, usually explaining it to the protagonist, and so on. But as a whole, Star Wars is very tropey, so I'd say this is pretty fitting. In addition to your prison fighting, this also doubles as a pretty good mystery novel to a certain extent. The identity of the weapons merchant is handled pretty well, and you definitely are questioning a lot of the characters Maul encounters throughout the story. As you read, you begin to wonder if Maul can trust this person, and sometimes it leads you down a path before taking you down another and making you question who is the enemy. There is also another mystery that is set up early on in the story. This sort of B-plot, I guess you could call it, weaves its way in and out of the main title, and when it's revealed near the end, the payoff is definitely worth it and also ties into the semi-horror aspect that I mentioned earlier. For Star Wars fans, there are plenty of fun nods throughout the story as far as characters and just cameos in general go. Unlike Shadowhunter, this story has the benefit of Plagueis being canon at the time of publication. So periodically throughout the story, we will get some insight on the relationship between him, Sidious, and Maul, and the schemes each one of them are planning behind each other's backs. It's very well written, and I honestly wish we had more of it. I understand why we didn't, since it doesn't really gel with a story about prison survival, but it still would have been nice just to see a little bit more. The Bandagora should also be pretty familiar to those of you who have read the Plagueis novel or played Star Wars Bounty Hunter. There are also some aliens in the prison that could be a pretty fun surprise for fans of Star Wars as well. There is an audiobook version of Lockdown that is narrated by Jonathan Davis, who has narrated a ton of previous Star Wars novels, both canon and Legends, and as you can expect, he does a pretty good job overall. In the end, I think Lockdown is a fun story, but I wouldn't say it's a story every Star Wars fan should read, and probably isn't an ideal jumping on point for a new reader. I wouldn't say the story is bad by any means, but you're not missing out anything major as far as story or character growth if you don't read it. I would recommend Lockdown to big Darth Maul fans. If you're a completionist and just want to fill in all the gaps from that era in the timeline, I would recommend it. But if you aren't interested in Darth Maul or prison fiction, I guess you could call it, I wouldn't be running out to go after this. So that does it for this video. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, like, comment, what have you. And coming up next, you can expect a review/overview of Colin Bunn's Darth Maul miniseries written for Marvel Comics. Or I'm going to be talking about Batman's War Games arc from the mid-2000s. Whichever video gets finished first is going to come out first, obviously. So look forward to both of those in the near future, and I'll catch you next time.